The St. Louis Cardinals drop the opening game of their series against the Pittsburgh Pirates on the road. Final score 7-0. Not a pretty one tonight. A little bit of a dud, you could say. Something that the Cardinals haven't really done still that much in 2025, but tonight was most definitely one of those contests. I am Ethan Hannaford. He is Chris Pelikan, and this is Cards Central Postgame on STL Sports Central. As always, Card Central Postgame is presented by DraftKings. The crown is yours. Chris, a lot of things to discuss about tonight's game, but overall, it just kind of felt like from the first inning that you just had this feeling based on what you saw early from Andrew Heaney, based on what you saw early from Eric Fedde, that this one might be a tough one. It proved to be.
Yeah, this is a team, the Cardinals, that's been resilient, right? They win when they're not playing their best. They win when they're the pitchers have gutted through, not having their best stuff, which Fedde clearly didn't tonight. But tonight was, you said, a little bit of a dud. I'd say a lot of a dud. This is just one of these ones that I think, you burn the game film, so to speak, right? Like, I mean, you and I can knock out the positives in about 5 seconds. Swanson and King, 3 innings of one run relief. There it is. That's the only positive. Not much to dwell on. Glad to see that. But I mean, it was bad all the way around. And you talk about Andrew Heaney's a guy who came into this game coming off of back-to-back 4 innings, 7-run outings. So it isn't like this guy's up there being Tarek Skubal at this point in time, right? So credit to Heaney for making some adjustments, moved the ball around really well tonight, kept the Cards very much off balance. Ethan, you sit here and we start looking at trends, and 3 of the last 4 Cardinal outings against left-handed starting pitching have resulted in a shutout. And, you sit here and you go, they did okay against Logan Allen on Saturday, I believe it was, or was it Sunday?
Sunday
yesterday. Yeah. So fine, but I mean, again, the last 2 of the Cubs series, the first one here, is this a trend that we need to be concerned about? Is there a solution to this issue? I know Jordan Walker is due back shortly, but boy, I don't know if he's the answer to your issues against lefty starting pitching. I think that I don't know if that's the best possible answer, but all in all, like you said, I just a dud. And again, this team has been too good this year to sit here and maybe glean way too much off this, but I think we do have to look at a few of the trends, and the way this team is going up against left-handed pitching offensively has been troublesome lately. And then, Eric Fedde, second straight bad start, a guy who's had more good than bad this year. So, you just have to take the good with the bad a lot of times when you're talking about guys who are not ace caliber people. So again, I don't know that we can sit here and say time to pull Fedde out of the rotation, time to completely change the approach hitting wise. But, a couple of early trends that aren't looking fantastic for this group.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a surprise or a secret, right, that the kryptonite right now is left-handed pitching. I mean, that's something from the moment that Ivan Herrera went on the IL, you said, it's going to be a little bit difficult because they just don't have enough right-handed guys that you feel confident in the starting lineup right now. Mason Wynn has been okay, but he's had some good stretches here in the midst of winning some big hits. But overall, when you look at his past 4 to 6 weeks, it's not like it's been world beater like it was earlier in the season, which is okay. As well, you look through the lineup. Wilson Contreras has been he's been okay. Nolan Arenado's been swinging a little bit better as of late, but I mean, we all know that Pedro Pages' strength is not his bat. There's just not enough offensive presence right now from the right side. And that's the tough part of where this team is right now, is when you take out one guy like Ivan Herrera, who has been so impactful, all of a sudden you're in a tough spot. The Cardinals, fortunately, it hasn't beaten them up as much as I was concerned it would. The day that Ivan Herrera went back on the IL and they said hamstring, and you're like, uh-oh, this could be a little while, I was not optimistic. In fact, I think I was having a little bit of for the first time this year, like, okay, it's going to be tough. This does not look good because of how thin they are from the right side. Now, in large part, been able to weather the storm. Like going into tonight, they had won 10 of 13, and no one was feeling bad after Sunday afternoon with the way that this team had been playing as of late. But it is nights like this, right, where it is a little bit frustrating. There are some concerns, and you're like, okay, this is going to have to be something that gets figured out. I don't know what the answer is, because I don't know if I see this team adding to the starting 9 at the trade deadline unless you're moving a piece out, and I don't expect them to be. Who would you be moving out? Nolan Arenado's not going anywhere. Wilson Contreras is not going anywhere. I'm thinking of just like the veteran guys that right now. Outside of that, everyone is young and under team control for a long time. You're certainly not getting rid of Nolan Gorman, in my opinion, the way that he's swinging it right now. Jordan Walker, no chance. Victor Scott, why am I even saying the name? There's no one that you're like, okay, we're going to bring someone in that we're going to put in front of someone else right now. I mean, there's just no one. So if they're adding a right-handed bat, it's a right-handed bench bat. And honestly, I was thinking about this earlier today. I'm like, who would be like a guy that kind of fits into that like type of category? Maybe someone that, because they're not going to add, I don't think, a bat that is going to be here for long term. It's not near the top of the priority list when you look at what they have offensively in large part and around the field right now. I just don't think they're going to give anything big up in the system that's going to help up here in 2025, at least from the right side. What I could see is, this is just an example. I'm not saying they go after him again, but a guy like a Tommy Pham, right? Someone that's going to be on a rental, that's going to be cheap, and you can that can be a guy that you play a couple of times a week, can be aid in situations like this, right, where you're in trouble and you need a guy up there at the plate from the right side, maybe give you a little bit of relief to your bench. We know that has been thin since they started dealing with the injuries from the right side for Ollie Marmol. So not specifically Tommy Pham necessarily, but a guy kind of that plays that style. The only problem was last year Tommy Pham wanted to be playing more, I think, and it eventually led to the team parting ways, I think, a little bit quicker than they initially thought that they would. But a guy like that could have a little bit of pop maybe off of the bench, but that isn't going in with the expectation that he's going to be playing every day, I think would be useful for the Cardinals right now. Would it fix the problem? No, because they're likely not going to start every single day, like I said. But it definitely would alleviate that issue. So I'm not sure. I want to hear your thoughts on this as well, because I do think that getting a little bit of relief from the right side would be beneficial. But the Cardinals are in this tough spot right now to where, they are still prioritizing youth, and they aren't going to want to give up, I imagine, too much for a rental piece. So it's kind of a weird in between right now. I'm curious. What are you?
No, I mean, Ethan, and it's like you and I have talked a lot about sort of the potential for acquisitions over the course of the season. And you're right. The Cardinals are in a very interesting spot because, again, win at all costs is probably not the mindset with this group right now. I mean, we continue to have the runway year, right? And seeing where these guys are, what they're able to do. And, so when you kind of frame the entire discussion through that lens, that this is still a year of exploration. And the truth is that more of these guys than not have shown that the runway they've been given has been justified, right? I think for the most part, we are seeing, good things out of the Gormans of the world. Jordan Walker hasn't gotten there just yet, but Herrera's runway has been a good thing, and Victor Scott's runway has been a good thing. And, so point being, you don't have a gaping hole in this lineup where you sit there and say, we need to find the best available guy at that spot. I mean, you and I have chatted about a little bit about this, and again, I'll come back to this. This is going to be my Alamo for a little bit, but Pedro Pajes, Joel Pozo, the catching position is what it is. You've got a couple of guys who have done yeoman's work, as they might say, offensively. The defense speaks for itself in terms of the way they've handled this pitching staff. I think the pitching staff has far exceeded expectations, and you have to give credit where credit's due. Pajes has been a very, very important piece of that. Having said that, that seems to be the one spot where I think you can make a difference offensively if you find the right fit, right? And you and I had talked a little bit about Sean Murphy in Atlanta, right? I don't think he's going to be a guy who gets traded, despite the fact that they love Drake Baldwin, right? Like, I mean, they've got a guy who they really like, who's, rookie, a 21-year-old rookie. He's a fantastic looking player, really, really pop, a lot of pop with the bat, but he's a lefty bat. Murphy's a right. It seems to make a lot of sense to keep them both. And Murphy's contract's pretty reasonable. He's got 3 years left at 15 per. But I mean, if you're going to sit there and say, like, okay, if the Cardinals wanted to sit there and maybe find a right-handed hitting catcher who might provide a little bit more offense, I mean, there's some names that are going to be out there, like whether they're available or not. You kind of start your list with the guys who are pending free agents, and you come up with guys like, JT Real Muto sitting there. I doubt Phillies trade him. Gary Sanchez is a guy who just came off the injured list for the Orioles, but a guy who's always had a lot of bat. Not much of a catcher, but he's a guy. You look at somebody, for instance, like Danny Jansen's had a not terrible season with Tampa. But again, like, do they trade? I mean, but we're grasping at straws to a degree, right?
Yeah,
because the truth is again, no one would blame this team if they stuck with the tandem of Pajes and Pozo, and maybe you give Herrera the rare every other day, every 10th day started catcher. I'm 100% against Herrera ever catching another game, because again, we're seeing a guy with some propensity for injury, and that bat is way too important. So I think he needs to settle into the first base DH role. So, again, I mean, but then if we're going to go back to what you're saying, and let's find the guys who are utility guys or maybe outfielders, your list of right-handed guys at that point in time, it's Tommy Pham. I mean, you got a guy like Mark Canha, who's been a really nice, right-handed bat, but he's been pretty bad for the Royals this year. Like Austin Hayes in Cincinnati. He's a guy who hasn't done anything this year, but has somewhat of a track record. I mean, there's guys, but again, they're literally just guys.
Yeah.
And I mean, we're sitting here saying, do we really think that playing Jordan Walker is going to be a big decrease over what you're going to get out of Mark Canha or Austin Hayes? And so it's just like, you're not bringing in a guy to play every day. Okay. Like, that just seems to be what you would do in the outfield, because you think you have three guys that you want playing every day out there. And so your options are limited. So again, I think they're in a bit of a tough spot with this. Talking with Rock on the show yesterday, he's already predicted a middle reliever at the trade deadline, somebody who costs almost nothing. And that's the extent of the improvements. And so, you know what, I mean, the emotional fan in me is going to sit here and say, we're close. Let's go get Marcelo Zuna or someone like that, and throw him in here and let him whack, hitting the 3-hole and be fantastic. And, even though he's hurt, but I mean, like, the point is it doesn't make any sense. And I think that the way this team has played this year, they deserve to sort of play it out without really affecting the future too much and changing their vibe and their chemistry. So again, I mean, I would expect Mo's, bargain bin to be wide open at this point in time. And maybe they find a Tommy Pham, maybe they find a middle reliever at a very low prospect cost. And I think that's what you're going to see. And again, I mean, if we're going to be rational about the thing, for what this team is wanting to do this year, that seems like it's the smartest play.
I agree. I want to keep moving here. I'll talk a little bit about Eric Fedde, because the chat is hot about Eric Fedde tonight. They are not happy, and understandably, Eric Fedde was not good tonight. The second straight outing that he has just straight up not been good tonight. 5 innings thrown, 10 hits, 7 runs, all of them earned, 3 walks, 0 strikeouts, and a lot of hard contact against them. In fact, this reminded me a lot of yesterday, 2 days ago, the 4th or 5th, whatever inning, fourth inning, where Miles Michaelis just got absolutely rocked. And it felt like it was every other pitch. And I mean, they were just all over him. I don't know if there was a tell tonight or what it was, but I mean, it felt like it was every first or second pitch. The Pirates were just spraying the ball all over the park, and there was just nothing that Fedde could do about it. I appreciated the way that he was able to work out of that first inning. You almost for a second you're like, okay, this could get ugly really quick, and then he's able to get the line out double play, and but then a couple innings later it all falls apart for him. And like I said, the chat is asking all kinds of questions about Eric Fedde and when can he go. They are just over it. And listen, I understand the frustration. I get it. Eric Fedde was not good tonight. But let's keep in mind, guys, okay? I know a lot of the underlying stats are not good. I know what the XFIP is. I know what the FIP is. I know it does not look good. The underlying stats are not good, okay? But let's keep in mind, this is a guy that 2 starts ago had an ERA of 3.54. 3.54. So we've seen 2 back-to-back bad starts. Is that concerning? Absolutely. Yes, that's not good. And if that continues, right, then you start to take way more from the underlying stats. What I'm saying is people have been saying all year, the underlying stats don't look good from Eric Fedde, but in large part, the numbers have still been there. And yes, he's had the occasional blow-up start, but if you're just going to say that he's been terrible, well, look at the numbers. Like he's had the production for a decent portion of the year still.
Ethan, so, this is the first time in 13 starts that he hasn't gone at least 5 innings.
Yeah, so I know everyone's giving smoke saying, "Oh, keep spinning it, blah blah blah." He's not good enough. That's just not true. It's not true. So maybe we're looking at different box scores. I'm not saying that it's done. Maybe if this Cardinals defense isn't as good as it is, then maybe that there's probably a difference. But like they are as good as they are, so they can afford to use him like that. I'm not saying that Eric Fedde is the answer, but what I am saying, right, is that we're panicking after 2 games. That's what we're doing. So if it continues, yes, my concern is going to continue to grow, but it's a 162 game season, guys. So grasping straws, no, I'm not going to panic every time that something goes wrong. Would I say that this is the most concerning out of them all? I would, because of the way that they just continue to hit him after like I said, what felt like the first or second pitch of almost every at bat. I know this Pirates team has hit better the last few games here, but they're still one of the worst teams in baseball collectively and one of the worst offenses collectively. So am I starting to get a little bit concerned about Eric Fedde? Yeah, the last couple have not been good. If there is I'm curious what your thoughts are on this, because the whole thing this entire season has been, when is Michael McGreevy going to be a part of this rotation, right?
Yeah.
And we talked a lot about the offensive side and adding that right-handed bat. When you look at what Eric Fedde has done as of late, specifically these last couple of starts where they haven't been good, you're getting closer to the deadline. You have a guy like McGreevy that's knocking on the door. What makes sense for you for how St. Louis handles this deadline when you take into consideration some of the struggles they've seen as of late, specifically from him and Michaelis?
Well, let's get something out of the way first about Eric Fedde. He doesn't have good stuff, and truthfully has never had major league stuff that is above average. Okay. Where Eric Fedde became a different pitcher was when he went to Korea and learned the sweeper and just sort of started figuring ways to keep guys off balance. And what you saw tonight, again, you were correct, Ethan, the contact was extremely hard, right? Like he was not missing. He wasn't fooling anyone. He has to live with his location, and his location was garbage tonight.
Yeah.
I tend to think that this is something that can be fixed mechanically, consistency. This isn't, again, 12 consecutive starts going 5 innings. They weren't all fantastic starts, but this is what this guy is. He's a guy who you want to give you innings to keep you in ball games, and he has done that far more than he has not this year. So yes, has his last 2 been bad? Without question. The question becomes, is this something that's going to become chronic, or can he go back to the guy who was, the first 15 starts of the year way better than not? And so again, you don't pull the plug this quickly. The thing about McGreevy, McGreevy wasn't really good the last time out. He threw. McGreevy's a guy. The funny thing is that McGreevy is kind of a younger version of Fedde, right? He's more of a control guy. He's more of a location guy. He's not going to wipe you out with his stuff. He doesn't have Libertor's arm. He doesn't have Sonny Gray's arm. So does McGreevy deserve a chance to be in this rotation? I almost think it's a different question altogether, because that sort of comes up with, we're talking more philosophical about where this team is when you say, does McGreevy deserve to be in this rotation? And what they've decided with this year is that, they have time with McGreevy. There's time. He will be in the rotation next year. he might be in it this year if somebody gets hurt, right? It's pretty amazing that they've gone halfway through the season, knocking on wood right now, and not had a serious injury in their rotation. It's a rare thing. So I think that McGreevy will get his shot this year or next, some combination of both. But again, with Fedde, I'm just saying that this is who this guy is. When his location is bad, he's going to get knocked around. That's just how it is. But on the flip side, if you look at I think he's made 15 or 16 starts this year. I would tell you that 12 of those have been pretty good starts where he's given his team a chance to win. And when you're talking about a guy who is you consider to be the back end of your rotation, I mean, that is what a back of the rotation guy, if you get that from them, you feel very good about it. So again, 100%, he did not help his cause tonight. He did not give this team a chance to win, although I don't think this team had any chance to win with the way they were swinging the bats. But again, I just don't know that I'm seeing enough trending to sit there and say, time to DFA this guy, time to move him out. I think you got to see a couple more complete duds to where you start being convinced that he's lost whatever mojo he had earlier in the season. Because again, if you get this guy to get back to what he was, giving you quality starts more often than not, that's what this team needs out of the back end starters. So again, I don't give up on Eric Fedde at this point in time. I think he'll be the first to admit that he just didn't have it tonight. And when you don't have plus stuff, your margin for error goes from small to none. And that's why he was getting hard contact all night. So again, see how he bounces back in 5 days. And, then a little bit more data at that point in time. And if you get another 7 runs, then maybe you got to start thinking about making a change. But I will say that the guy's done enough this year to have a little bit of runway. We're having runway with Eric Fedde at this point in time. But again, you can't blow it up with him because the results have been far better than they've been bad.
He is Chris Pelikan. I'm Ethan Hannaford. This is Cards Central Postgame. Cards drop a rough one tonight against the Pittsburgh Pirates, 7-0 the final. You fans are insufferable. Superfly saying, can't be too disappointed. I didn't expect much from them anyway. Inconsistent up and down games. They're a 500 team at best. Actually, right now they're an 8 games above 500 team. So, I don't know about that, man. Superfly also saying Marvel probably can't do anything without asking permission. I'm assuming this is in regards to DFAing Eric Fedde. Yeah, along with every other major league manager in Major League Baseball. So that's called the
chain of command.
Chain of command. Thank you very much for the help there. So Eric Fedde, not sharp tonight. Covered that pretty well, I think. Not a lot of positives to take from tonight. It sounds like right now the message is, let's wait it out. It's 2 starts. Have they been good? No. But if you reacted over 2 starts for every single or a handful of games for every single player, then things would look a lot different for this team right now. That's part of the game. I know it's a little bit different with guys that are veterans like him and Michaelis than how you're viewing it with guys like Jordan Walker, Nolan Gorman. But you said it earlier. I mean, the fact that the Cardinals have been able to keep this rotation healthy all season long, I think is something that fans are taking for granted. And it's the toughest part, right? When you begin to have this conversation of what do you do with Eric Fedde? What do you do with Miles Michaelis? Because there's been a lot of people saying, okay, trade him away or DFA him or do something else with him. Just don't have him in the starting rotation. The second you do that, and Michael McGreevy is a part of this rotation, which I can't wait for that day, right, when Michael McGreevy is part of this rotation. But the second that you do, what happens when someone else goes down? Who's the next guy, guys? Who's the next guy? Answer me that. And if you give me a legitimate answer where I can tip my cap, I will. I'll tip my cap. But if you say Steven Matz, I'm going to lose my freaking mind, right? Because we know he has that ability to, right? But he's just proven to be too important to the bullpen. He's been too important to the bullpen. So it feels like it's a little bit of a catch-22, right? Like you're screwed if you do, you're screwed if you don't right now for the Cardinals because you know that potentially, right, that with time, Michael McGreevy is going to give you a better product consistently than what Miles Michaelis and Eric Fedde probably are. I think that's a fair assessment, but the second that you do that, you have no more depth in the minors if you are to get into trouble with injuries.
And Ethan, I think it's a different conversation if Quinn Matthews is knocking the door down, which he's not at this point.
Right, he's not.
right? It's a different conversation if Zach Thompson is healthy and knocking the door down, which he's not. Obviously we're looking at what Tink Hence says at this point in time, and Tink Hence more than likely looks to probably profile as a reliever with his health issues. And so again, you're right. Michael McGreevy is the one ace in the hole they have at this point in time in terms of rotation depth. And when you have 3 guys in your rotation, 35 or over, I mean, you have to be ready for that inevitability. And so again, I'm trying to think of a nice way to put it, but I think that you squeeze every ounce of whatever it is you can out of Miles Mikolas and Eric Fedde at this point in time, because there are still 80 plus games to play this season. Yeah. And you need starters who will give you innings. The one thing that those guys have done this year, with few exceptions, is give you decent innings. Right. And so, like I said, I get how bad it can look from time to time with Mikolas and Fedde. At this point in time, they're very similar pitchers, not necessarily in the pitches they throw or that sort of thing, but they are guys whose stuff does not win games. They are guys whose savvy, whose location, whose ability to elicit soft contact is what wins games. And when they are off, it can be really, really, really bad. So again, the fact that they've been more good than bad as back of the rotation guys for you, you got to feel good about that. Okay. And so, again, their leash, I think, has to be a smidge longer, because once again, they are healthy starting arms who more often than not have given your team a chance to win a game. So as much as I don't, you can watch that game tonight and just think that Eric Fedde was up there throwing batting practice, which he was there. That's pretty hard to dispute. I think, again, try to look at the track record and decide whether or not this is a guy that you actively try to get rid of at this point in time. And I just don't think that the numbers back that up.
A couple of answers to my question. Chewy saying, don't know. I just want McGreevy in the lineup. I see the Brewers and the Reds with their young pitchers, and we don't even have ours up yet. Listen, I get the frustration, but like I said, the answer can't just be don't know. Like, what happens when we go through with that, and then all of a sudden we have no one? Like, what is Ali Marmol supposed to say? What is John Mozeliak supposed to say? Don't know. I applaud Brandon here for commenting and saying Roby, at least give me an answer here. The only thing I would say about Tekoa Roby is he's had 4 starts in Memphis. 4 starts, and the first 2 were pitiful. Last 2 have been better. 6 innings, 6 shutout innings, 5 innings of 1-run ball. So optimistic, but we want to take care of our young guys and make sure they're developing well. Are we really going to, after 4 starts, say Tekoa Roby's ready to be the emergency guy like Michael McGreevy has? I don't think so.
Yeah, and Ethan, let's be real about something else too. So right now, for all intents and purposes, Chaim Bloom is running the minor league system, right? I mean, this has been his task. If you want to look at Chaim Bloom's profile, which was forged in Tampa is a team, probably because of money, but it became a very successful formula, who were the least aggressive in pushing their prospects to the majors, right? And it might have been a service time thing, but I think you would hear Chaim Bloom, you'd hear Andrew Friedman, who was there for a long time, say the aggressive push of prospects, while it does pay off from time to time, there is so much learning that happens at the AAA level. And who's a great example of that right now? Look at Milwaukee with Jacob Mizorowski, a guy who people were clamoring for last year to come up. And the Brewers held firm. Matt Arnold's another guy who comes from that same lineage. And he's a guy who, look at what Mizorowski did, goes all the way through last year, doesn't come up at all, starts and pitches, for the first 2 months of the season at AAA Nashville for them. And now he is ready to do this. And so again, Chaim Bloom is going to be, just by profile, he's going to be a guy who's cautious on his promotion schedule. So I think that's another reason that McGreevy is not in this rotation, is that I think he looks at what he's doing now in this sort of part-time role as another good, important step in his development. So, Chaim Bloom has a very different way of developing players than this team has in the past. And so I think people have to understand that with him, and I think it's a good way. And so, again, I think that this organization has no interest in pushing people who are not overly ready, not just might be ready. Let's see what they've got. And we were talking about the Brewers young pitchers and the Reds young pitchers. Chase Burns, who made his second start tonight for the Reds, is one of the most exciting young pitchers I've seen in a long time. His first game against the Yankees, he strikes out the first 5 guys he sees. You're like, wow, what does Chase Burns do in his second start tonight against the Red Sox? 1/3 of an inning, 5 earned runs. Okay. Young guys, this is what they do. Okay. Like, I mean, for every Paul Skeens, you're going to have 100 Chase Burns, where, you know what, they might, I mean, I think Chase Burns is a potential Cy Young guy at some point, but he's also 23. He's also got under 100 minor league innings, you know? And so you sit there, this isn't the NBA. This isn't the NHL to some extent. This isn't the NFL, where guys can come in and produce right off the bat. It is a rare thing. They need experience in the minors. And again, I just think that McGreevy is one of these guys who is seasoned in the minors, has thrown a lot of innings in the minors. And I think that the fact that they're still taking it slowly with him shows that they want this process to unfold at its own pace. And so again, short of them going out and acquiring a starter in via trade, I just don't know that they look at this at Memphis and say, we've got solutions here, you know, in the short term.
Not yet, right? And I think
Sure.
we can all acknowledge, right, that things are starting to move in the right direction. That corrections have been made. The recognition that this got screwed up somewhere along the way, that has happened, right? And they have started to put the steps in place, right, to get it back on track. Is it entirely back on track?
Right.
No, right? But I think it's on the way, and I fully trust that Chaim Bloom and Rob Cerfilio and all the guys that are going to be brought on and have been brought on are going to continue to move it in the right direction. He is Chris Pelikan. I'm Ethan Hannaford. This is Cards Central Postgame. Frustrating one for the Cards tonight that dropped game 1 against the Buccos, 7-0, the final. A reminder, as always, that Cards Central Postgame is presented by DraftKings. The crown is yours. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app now and use code STL Sports. That's code STL Sports for new customers to play. $5, get $50 in Pick 6 credits. Better payouts, bigger wins, only with Pick 6 from DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
He is Chris Pelikan. I'm Ethan Hannaford. This is Cards Central Postgame. We've been talking a lot about the pitching, about how exactly to go about it, the trade deadline. Well, speaking of pitching, tomorrow it won't get much easier. I guess the one
simple.
The one good thing, right, would be that at least Paul Skeens is a righty, right? Maybe I guess that's the one good part. Now, earlier I mentioned that things weren't going to get any easier tomorrow, and Chewy had the comment of the night. He said, "No, tomorrow we face our son." I couldn't wait to put that one out for later. So, Chewy, thank you for that one. I appreciate that comment. But obviously, the Cardinals have had some success in the win column against Paul Skeens. His numbers still look pretty good against the Redbirds, right? He's coming off of a little bit of a dud of an outing as well. And I saw a comment earlier saying that someone fully expects the Cardinals to get swept by the Pirates now because they face Paul Skeens and Mitch Keller the next 2 nights. Let me just remind you that Paul Skeens has a record of 4-7, and Mitch Keller, I think, is 2-9 or 2-10. Very good pitchers, both of them, yes. But what does that tell you? It tells you they don't get run support. And I know they have the last couple of games, right? But in large part, this team still has really struggled mightily offensively. So could the Cardinals, could the success continue from the offense? Sure, right? And this is not the 2 guys you want to be facing regardless. But the way the Cardinals have been hitting right-handed pitching as of late, you would hope that you're able to get a solid start tomorrow from, I believe it's Andre Palante on the bump, and that he's able to continue to trend in the right direction. It feels like we've seen some positive momentum from him as of late. Let's hope that he continues to move in the right direction and you're able to get a couple on Skeens and give yourself an opportunity to win this series on Wednesday.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question. I mean, obviously the Skeens mystique doesn't really phase this team to a degree. I mean, obviously I don't think you're going to expect to put up 7 or 8 tomorrow, but I mean, again, like you said, Andre Palante's been better than he's been bad, especially the last 4 times out there. I mean, I don't think it's unreasonable to hope that you get 6 innings of 2-run ball from Andre Pallante. Is that enough to beat Skeens? I mean, on a lot of nights it's not. But for whatever reason, the Cardinals have seemed to be able to. And I think this goes back to, you and I've had numerous conversations about the Brant Brown approach with this team's, the way that this team goes about their at bats. And, they go up there for whatever reason tonight, Andrew Heaney's frisbee slider and your curveball and the way he moved the ball up and down a lot was very effective against this team. But I mean, the Cardinals lineup has done better than they've done worse against what you would consider to be premium arm talent, Skubal and Skeens and guys of that ilk. This team puts together good at bats. They make these guys throw a lot of pitches. And so again, I don't expect this to be a 7 or 8 run Cardinal performance tomorrow, but them scratching out 2 or 3 against Skeens is very realistic in my mind. And if Pallante can go out there and put together a nice 5-6 innings of 1 to 2 run ball, turn it over to the bullpen at that point in time, who's, your main guys are all rested at this point in time. It certainly would not surprise me if tomorrow night they level the series, because that's just been their MO. So again, you're right. Pallante is going to be a big storyline, especially as we're seeing, a little bit of fragility, I guess you could say, with the back end of the rotation. You really need Pallante. I mean, I think most people are feeling decent about Gray and Liberatore at this point in time. If Pallante can sort of solidify the back end guys, with a nice outing tomorrow, I think that's going to make people feel a lot better about this rotation overall.
Let's hope that the Cardinals are able to even things up tomorrow. Obviously, tonight was one to forget. There is no doubt about that. Looking ahead, there were a couple of Chewy was asking, doesn't Burley and Nato hit well against Paul Skeens? They do. Alec Burleson, 6 for 15 with a double against Skeens. Arenado is 5 for 14 with a double and a home run against Paul Skeens. Brendan Donovan is also 4 for 13. Outside of that, not a lot of success traditionally against Paul Skeens. So a couple of lefties that have been having success, and just happens to be the guys that have been carrying your offense for a good chunk of the season as well. Any final thoughts here before we wrap up tonight, Chris?
Burn the film, as they like to say. Nothing good you're going to glean out of this thing, right?
Listen, and I think that advice is needed, because fans, listen, this is the place. Whether we get on you listen, sometimes you give it to us. That doesn't mean I'm going to give it back to you. I'm going to give it back to you sometimes. I'm going to tell you, hold your horses, slow down, right? But I understand the frustration at times, right? This was not a good game. No one's arguing that it was, right? But context is important, and the Cardinals have won 10 of 13, right? So duds are going to happen. It's part of the game, right? It's not allowing it to spiral, right? And I know that everyone's frustrated right now. You win tomorrow, and it completely changes the narrative. And everyone is all peachy keen, sunshine and rainbows. It's amazing how quickly it can change in a fan's mind, from everything being pure panic to everything's all good again. So
that's why we love sports, my friend.
Amen.
We love sports.
Amen to that. So appreciate you guys all joining us tonight on STL Sports Central. We'll be back tomorrow. As always, Randy Carricker Show in the mornings at 10 o'clock. Cards Central 365 in the afternoon, and then we'll have the post game for you right here on the Cards Central post game. He is Chris Pelikan. I'm Ethan Hannaford saying so long until tomorrow.